Hello everybody, this is Kelly O'Black for this week's Sketch It Out Thursday. This is our inspiration piece for the week, and I love the black and white stripes, the small floral print, and the touches of gold in the bottle, the more matte gold. However, this is the story of Sketch It Out Thursday without a sketch. I got so enamored with the inspiration piece and pulling product to use with that, I totally forgot to use the sketch. So sorry about that, but here is the layout. I was originally going to use this gold foil heart paper with that small floral print, you know, inspired by the heart, and then also the matte gold. And I had grabbed that love paper too. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking, but once I saw that, I kind of got an idea in my head and totally forgot about the sketch that I was supposed to be using. So what I did here is I just grabbed a smaller scrap of that floral paper to use because I didn't need to use that whole sheet, and I can use that whole sheet at a later date. This is a photograph of my youngest nephew at his wedding with my new niece, who we dearly love. She's actually been a part of our family for much, much longer than the time that they've been married. They've been married for just about a year now. They dated but have been dating since they were very young. Anyway, so it's the two of them with my oldest nephew and his wife. So I just thought it was a cool photo of the four of them. So that floral paper is from Carta Bella Rustic Elegance. It's the small floral paper. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just cutting a small piece of it to use as a photo mat. That love paper that you're seeing there that I'm going to use as my main background came from the Paper Studio, which is Hobby Lobby's line of paper. Now I'm also cutting I'm going to use that diagonal black and white stripe paper. I love those diagonals, and I was recently somewhere and found a whole bunch of that black and white stripe, and I actually bought all the pieces that they had. I think they had like 4 or 5 of them because I used those diagonal stripes quite a bit, and especially in this nephew's wedding album, their wedding colors were black and gold, so this inspiration board is perfect for that. And then I'm using a little bit of pink. I have a blushy, peachy colored pink in their wedding album as well, just so that there's another color. And pink is one of the bride's favorite colors, a corally, blushy pink. So even though they didn't use it in their wedding, I'm using it for touches to kind of brighten up the album a little bit. So like I said, that in that box, there's like I'm almost positive I have a pattern paper that's very similar to that, but I couldn't find it. So I used the Carta Bella piece anyway. So what I did is I did actually get the black and white stripe. I don't always do that with my background papers, but I do use black and white stripes so often that I thought I would use it. They're also really good for sympathy cards in all seriousness. So I thought that would be a good paper to be gutting. Now what I'm doing at the moment is I cut down the love paper, but because it is a square and the love is sitting kind of in the middle of it, I wanted to maintain that. So I cut off I had to cut equally from each side. I did think about it later on. What I could have done is maybe cut a little bit more off the bottom with more white space at the top too. That was another option I could have used. But I'm actually glad I didn't, because I think it would have been too much. So what I'm doing right now is I have a couple of chipboard sheets that I'm using in this wedding album just off to my left, and I found this piece of chipboard from the My Mind's Eye Fancy That collection. It's the blush chipboard elements, and I really like how that pulls the blushy peachy pink in, and also highlights the just a happily ever after tone, because my older nephew and his wife at this point had been married just over 2 years. So I just thought it was kind of a cute thing with all the newlyweds. I think I forgot to tell you who the diagonal stripe paper is by. That's Bella Boulevard Just Add Color, and its passcode is the name of the paper. On the back, it's just a black and white pattern, kind of like a hand drawn out series of numbers so that you can add watercolor or whatever you want to it. All right, so now I'm just gluing down using my ATG to get the background glue down there. And you know, sometimes if my papers are a little bit too flimsy, if I use them from a paper pad, I'll put another reinforcing page behind that. But usually those two pieces together, if I glue them down pretty well, are fine. Plus they're sitting in the wedding album, or in this case it will be a wedding album, but sitting in your album in a page protector, which is fairly sturdy. So usually I don't have a problem with that paper failing. But like I said, especially the older paper pads. I can't think of words today. The older paper pads tend to be a lot thinner. So now I'm looking at these 3x4 cards, and I saw that there's a card with a jar on it from Rustic Elegance. And that is Cartabella Rustic Elegance again, and it is the 3x4 journaling cards. And I'm a little off screen here, but what I'm doing is I'm fussy cutting that jar so that I can use it within the layout here. And I thought about I'd seen a bigger one, but I actually like the size of this a lot better. So I'm just using my scissors to fussy cut. One of the tips for you in fussy cutting is when you're doing this, keep your elbow tucked into your side and don't move that, and that way you'll move the element. So I'm turning the jar card, I'm not turning my hand and my scissors. So but that's a big tip. I think Mercy Tiara gave that tip years ago, and I remembered it. So what I want to do to kind of join this is the photo is tucked pretty closely into the love there. So I want to get that jar to overlap the love just a little bit so that it kind of joins all three elements. And as you can see, like I said, I'm using that corally peachy pink, and definitely was inspired by the floral pattern in that to do that. And then the love is inspired by that matte gold, and I think that's why I pulled that paper to begin with. I saw the matte gold and, you know, oh, squirrel, shiny objects. So totally, like I said, sorry, forgot to use a sketch. I feel really bad about that, but that happens sometimes. And I have kind of a crazy work schedule, so by the time I realized what I had done, which was basically when I uploaded the video and started editing, it was too late for me to even think about trying to get another layout created unless I wanted to lose sleep, which I won't do. So I have to be on my toes when I'm at work, in all seriousness. All right, so what I did is I just put the foam tape on one side of that jar because it's going to sit on the chipboard element there. So I don't need to put it on the other side because it's being supported by that other piece there. This is going to be, when I'm done, a relatively simple layout, simple and clean. This wedding album is actually fairly simple and clean. Honestly, I don't layer in it quite as much as I normally do with layers and layers of paper. Although I guess if you look at this, there are 3 layers of paper at a minimum there. So that kind of makes sense. And now I'm working on how to get this photo position because I want it sitting within the love there. I want it fairly close because I want it to look like it's joined somehow. And I'm going to do something at the very end that will really help bring those two, I'm going to call them clusters, I guess, together. And you'll see that. I do another thing that'll help that too. So now I grabbed my bag of punched out hearts. That's what's sitting right there. And I was thinking about using those because I have some hearts punched out of either glitter, and there was a glitter heart on the inspiration piece, or some matte gold hearts. But instead, I saw this chipboard sheet and it has gold foil hearts on it. So the large heart there is from the My Mind's Eye Yes Please chipboard elements. And then all the other hearts that I'm going to put on are from the My Mind's Eye on Trend Cool chipboard elements. So those are coming from those sheets, and I want to use those up. They definitely have love and wedding themes, so I'd like to get those used up while I'm working on that. Not that hearts couldn't go on many different kinds of layouts. So now I'm fussing a little bit up here with how and where those hearts are going to be positioned, and I will continue to do that for a while as I'm putting these on. The other thing that happens is, as I'm kind of looking at the size, some of the sizes of the hearts are bothering me a little bit, so I'm playing around. I'm actually kind of glad I didn't do that in the way it looked, because right there it looks almost like a face. So I'm playing with putting this chipboard heart down, and as I'm doing this, I'm realizing that it's a little big for the heart there, because the heart on the jar says all my love. So I go back and I find a smaller heart. There were quite a few hearts on that on trend sheet, and I put that one down so it doesn't obscure the writing there. So I'm going to get that down, and now I'm going to put the other hearts on. And then, as you can see, what I did at the top there is I finally have the hearts closer to where I want them. I shifted the top right heart up to kind of cross over both the love background and then the diagonal. And you've heard me say this, I think, many times, especially if you watch my own channel. The more layers of paper that you can touch with an embellishment, the more it will bring the layout together. So now your eye is kind of seeing those as joined layers up in the top right. And what this is doing, if you look at it, there's gold foil hearts at the top right, and then there's one at the bottom left. And that is giving your eye is now looking diagonally at the layout here. So I'm just going to get these down. I'm going to tell you about this because I don't remember exactly how much time is left, but I was looking at trying to figure out some other like pieces, and what I'm going to do quickly here is I found another small gold heart, and I'm going to put that on the jar as well. It just again emphasizes that diagonal line, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing there. But when I went to photograph this layout after I was all done, I realized that it needed something else, and I was thinking about doing some sprinkles, you know, doing a little bit of like perhaps some gold Heidi shine on here, but that appears nowhere else in this album, and I'm about halfway done, and I was just and a lot of the early pieces are done, so I'm now working on formal portraits after the ceremony. So I thought if I started adding those now, it would look weird because they appear nowhere else. So what I ended up doing is I found some blushy pink sequins, and I'm going to add those sequins into the clusters starting at the top right and going all the way down to the bottom left. And what that'll do is it'll help your eye travel across the layout again. So make sure you look at that at the very end of the layout. So I don't journal on all of these layouts that I'm doing for them, and actually I thought about this. I may not actually put this in their wedding album. I might put it in mine of the day, you know, my album of what was going on, because I will scrapbook some of these photos for myself. So I wrote on here, I wrote my favorite group of newlyweds 5/21/16, because if nothing else, they're the most newlywed group in our family. So that's the layout. Like I said, don't forget to look for the sequins. The still shot and a couple of detail shots are coming up. Hope you are all well. Bye.